You surly sons of bitches. It's Friday. Wanted to show you a couple of new knives and see what you think, and then we're going to talk about the topic of the day. First, this is one of our, this is our very first, it's a prototype version of our new bushcrafter knife. Now the handles on it, those are solid contour milled and buffed, hand buffed aluminum. They have a really distinctive Coke bottle shape, and this handle is absolutely wonderful in the hand. But those will be compression molded handles, and G10, they will not be done out of aluminum. But that was easy for us to chuck up and make to see if we liked the feel as we played with it. That is not hand shaped. That is all CNC made, then hand polished. Very cool knife. Maybe I could tell you a little bit about it. I bet you want to know something about it. Let me tell you. Let me get out my set of calipers here. Mirotoyo caliper. Tell you, people are gonna want to know the length of the blade, so let's tell you that first. Length of the blade from center handle to tip, it's 4.25 inches. From center of the handle to tip, yeah. The remainder of the blade is 4.35 inches. The width of the blade, 1.21 inches. Thickness of the handle at its widest part is 0.94 inches. It's got a nice big flat ground bevel on it. We're doing a lot of flat grinds lately. I'm having fun with those. It's just a wonderful size. It's got a little extension at the end for some whacking and improvisational pommel strikes. I think it's going to be a really good little bushcraft knife. And then we're making these with a really nice fold over style leather sheath. So this is going to be a really modern take on a classic, really friendly size for out in the field. Great little knife. And I don't even know what we're calling that thing yet. The next one is the AIO2. The AIO2 is a knife I originally made. You'll notice it's got a slightly different size, slightly different style of tip to it now. It's a single edge, flat ground, kind of adventure, outdoor, woodsman crafts knife. It's got a jimped pommel on it, fully contoured and flush mounted scales. It's got our brand new signature, as does the other knife. It's got our brand new signature solid titanium ring bolt configuration. A hex and a forward lanyard for when you're doing really heavy work. It's got unsharpened lashing notches. That's so you can put a stick on the front of here and lash up a little bit further if you want a little more leverage holding onto the knife. Anyways, super cool knife. Oh, and it's got a fire starting groove. See if you can see that in there for using a fire starting drill. That's going to come with a really cool 1960s commando style leather sheath. So really cool setup. I think you guys will really like it. Now, before everybody gets all bent, tells me I shut up, and I'm a racist, and I'm an asshole, because they're only half right on that. We're going to shift gears. We're going to talk about something else right now. Now, everybody's been talking about this all day. So I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to talk about it one time. I do a lot of local political activity, okay? I talk politics, I give speeches, I address crowds in the conservative side of the spectrum of the political world. And here in Arizona, we've had some things go on with the elections that were, it's on the record, there are indictments that have gone down all over the state, and they are ongoing, and more of them happening every day. So some stuff went on. Everybody who thinks the state's gone purple is absolutely wrong. we've got a lot of drug money from the cartels that's affecting some counties here in Arizona and changing everything. So let me just give you a heads up. If you want to just talk knives and you only want to hear the knife guy, great time to jump off the video right now and go find somebody out there talking about what you want to talk about. Now we're going to talk about some politics. We're going to talk about Roe v. Wade, and we're going to talk about what happened today and yesterday, and what's interestingly going on in this country. And it'll be interesting to see how everyone conducts themselves. So I had the unique opportunity of talking with some young ladies about abortion. And I talk when I run into black people, there's not a lot of black people in Arizona. When I run into black people, I talk about race with them, and I ask, what, help me understand. I talk to Mexicans all the time. I want to talk about blue hair women getting BTFO. I don't know what that means, but I don't want to know, I don't think. I talk to a lot of people all the time, and I'm always just trying to see what perception is versus what you hear in the press. What was interesting is I was talking to my 16-year-old daughter, and I've talked to some younger women, asking them about this and how it affects them. And the initial conversation starts out, they pretty much, how could you be a Republican? It's against women. How could you be conservative? It's against women. And we start talking about Roe v. Wade. So this is a fascinating perspective. So I hope you hang on for a minute, because we're all going to be having these conversations over the holidays, up to the holidays, with friends and coworkers while we're out having a drink as we reflect on the events of the day. And this is what I encountered. So when I talk to women who are, let's say they identify as slightly feminist and they identify as pro-choice, when you talk to them, they ask my opinion, and I say, this is my normal thing now, I say, well, if you just want a yes, no, pro-life, pro-choice answer from me, I'm not going to jump into the CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, one or the other pool just quite yet, because I think it's being a simpleton. If you want to ask me that question, you got to give me the chance to give you a real answer, because it's a complex and nuanced question. What's fascinating is Americans are kind of decried as being backwards bumpkins who are not global and don't think well, and we're not educated, and we're all into our own thing. The truth is that it's expensive to live in America, and with as little safety net as there is for people who are not on the dole, you got to keep hustling. So not everyone's got time in their hobby to mentally cogitate on all this stuff. What I noticed was, as we talk about abortion, and this will be the same conversations you have with everybody in your life, there are three, let's say, important moments in a pregnancy that they cage the discussion of abortion. The first one is inception, right? From the moment the sperm hits the egg. And then in that 5 to 7 week period thereafter, where a heartbeat shows up, we get the heartbeat. And then there is a period in between the heartbeat and viability. Very much in the beginning, has zero survivability and doesn't look like a human being. In the middle, starts to look like a human being, not quite survivable. And then it crosses this magic barrier at which modern science or a bad car accident that kills the mom can yank the baby out, and the baby's viable from that point on. And the discussion has been caged in a really unfair, a dishonest, and in a lying matrix. It's a dishonest matrix, and it's to force us all to be mad at each other, and to hate each other. And it forces you to either be for or against women. And who wants to say they're against women? We're married. We've got women in our lives. We've got daughters. We've got moms. Nobody wants to be the guy against women. So you end up having to have these nuanced conversations with a yes or a no. So my advice to everybody is, don't answer yes or no. Say, I won't answer yes or no on one of the most perplexing and sophisticated issues of the modern political landscape, but I am willing to talk about it with you. What's what's fascinating is I have this discussion with young women and we talk about this and they're like, it's my right, my body. And that's kind of a feminist thing. There's an old-fashioned thing. Guys beg out of this argument by saying, oh, I'm a guy, it's none of my business. Or women will say, you're a guy, it's none of your business. You don't get to tell me. That's not true. Things that, just because I'm not for instance, I'm not a politician at the moment, it doesn't mean I shouldn't have opinions about what our politicians do in our country. Just because I'm not in the Navy doesn't mean I don't get a vote about what kind of people are in charge of our Navy. I mean, almost everything that affects us in our life, or that, there's a small percentage of things that affect us directly, and there's a high percentage of things that don't affect us directly, but we do get a right to express our opinion on all of them. Just like as a guy, there's a million years of genetics inside of me that wants to knock someone's teeth out when they're out of line. Well, if I did that and a woman watching said that's against the law, I want to vote against that, I can't say, oh, you're not a dude, you don't get it. We're all in the boat together, right? So this is the amazing nuance that I came across. Now, I had recently on a religious conservative right-winger with numerous children, interviewing on my podcast, The Greg Medford Show, on iTunes and Spotify and Rumble. And what was interesting, they're running for national office, and they admitted to me in my deep dive hour-and-a-half long format that they were comfortable having discussion about compromise up to the heartbeat. Now, for religious, pro-life, that is a big violation of that normal box they get put in. But what happened is we got to talk about it for 20 minutes instead of 30 seconds. In the 30 seconds, you can't nuance out your argument. You can't actually tell where your line is. You just say yes or no. And so they got us all in these two camps throwing rocks at each other. And they're going to, if you're a pro-life person, they're going to say you're anti-woman. You're against women. And that's not true. So what I found out was, talking with my 16-year-old daughter, who's wonderful and thoughtful about this, and very much a product of public school and modern leftist thinking. She said that she was a pro-choice woman. And I said, okay. And she said, are you pro-choice, Papa? And I said, I said I was when I was younger, and I'm less and less comfortable about it as time goes by. And so I asked her what pro-choice meant. What was fascinating was she was not totally clear on that. And so I said, there's kind of 3 points. There is conception, heartbeat, and viability. I said, your pro-choice advocate believes in abortion all the way up until the day before birth. At will, on-demand abortion. That's the entire argument. And anything short of that is a compromise that's oppressing poor women of color. That's their argument. You're an anti-feminist. You hate women. You don't get to say you're a guy. Well, as I talked to my daughter, I said, how do you feel about abortions on a baby that's literally viable if you were to just pluck it out of the womb? The mom dies in a car accident. The baby will live on its own. How do you feel about abortions after that? And she goes, oh, well, no, of course not. I said, because it's a baby. It breathes. If you put something up into the uterus, it pushes away. It's trying to survive. It's sentient. It's a human. And we Googled some pictures. And she said, oh yeah, I'm not comfortable with that at all. And I said, okay, now you just became a compromised pro-choice person. You're starting to sound pro-life. You're starting to sound like a radical right now. And she kind of looked at me and she goes, uh-oh, I'm getting caught with Dad in a trap. I said, look, I'm not trying to trap you, sweetheart. I said, there are 3 big steps here, and most Americans, the vast majority of us, we fall in the middle of this argument. She said, well, what's the next one? I go, well, the next one is the heartbeat. When it goes from being a little mass of cells to the very first heartbeat, where it begins to establish the rhythm of a human heartbeat. That moment, between 5 and 7 weeks. She goes, I said, and then I said, that's what this is what it looks like. And from this to this period, here's how it evolves. But there is this moment where it starts to have a heartbeat. And she said, oh, I'm not comfortable with an abortion after heartbeat. And I said, now you are a radical pro-lifer. And I said, and I love you, sweetheart. It sounds to me like you had decent parents that connected you to good morality and you believe in life. Good for you. I love you. And she kind of looked at me and I said, but you are now a radical pro-lifer because heartbeat bills around this country are challenged and considered draconian punishment against poor women who want to be able to have babies ripped out of their womb. And she just kind of looked at me like, gunk. And I said, now there is this discussion between inception and the heartbeat. And a lot of people are comfortable in this zone talking about the ability to end a pregnancy. Now, this is not in these rare and radical cases of rape, incest, and risk to life and limb of the mother. So we're not talking about those instances. So anyways, I'm just having a dad's chat with his daughter about pressing issue of the day. I'm not trying to convince you guys. I'm not trying to push my idea on anybody. I just thought it was very interesting. It was very interesting that my daughter, who considers herself a very pro-choice, pro-feminine advocate, and her dad, whom she considers to be very conservative, we actually ended up on the opposite sides or maybe standing in the exact same footprints once we started talking about some nuance. And I feel like that's where a lot of Americans are, because I had this religious man on running as a conservative for federal office who admitted he was willing to have the discussion prior to the heartbeat. Now, let me unpack heartbeat for a minute, because a lot of people don't really get what that's all about. For those of you who are dads, most of us don't find out that, most people don't find out they're pregnant. Most people find out they're pregnant after the 5-week mark, after the 7-week mark. They go to the doctor, there's a heartbeat, they do a little image, you got the little thing, and at that point, that's where we start having all those kind of like heavy discussions adults have, right? Most people, very few people find out, even with modern testing that you have in every drugstore that tell you like, a week after your last menses is late. Most people don't find out in the first few weeks. What's interesting though is when you talk to what would heretofore be called radical pro-lifers, they seem to have some room for discussion in that first area, which is surprising, and admitted right out, like didn't even ask me to redact it from our interview. And then you've got self-avowed pro-choicers who seem to be really uncomfortable once it starts looking like a human being with a heartbeat, which tells me the country's in way better shape than we think. Our country's in way better shape than the news would allow you to believe. If you are a conservative and you watch the news, you think the vast majority of Americans are godless heathens who are happy to kill babies. It's not quite true. When we have a more grown-up conversation, we are actually a hell of a lot closer to each other than we think we are. And it's a lot harder to bomb an abortion clinic or kill an abortion doctor or go, burn down a justice's house and go mad in the head if you have these discussions and you realize, actually, there's a lot of room for agreement in the middle. Public policy is not about the perfect decision. It's about the best decision for the most amount of people. That's one way to look at it. That's the way I have a tendency to look at it. John Stuart Mill's egalitarianism and trying to find the best solution for the most amount of people. If I was in a leadership position, I would not be trying to lead from the most zealot position on any given issue and abandon everyone else. I would be trying to serve as many people as I can. And in doing so, it puts you into some gray area. The only reason I wanted to talk about this, you guys, and I know it's like, Jesus, it's a knife channel. He's a knife guy. Why are we talking about this? This is going to be the biggest topic of the next few months. And I think it's important for my friends and folks that are from my corner of the universe. We have to be able to have these conversations and be intelligent, because I don't ever want to be in a revolution. I want to change my country for the better on the merit of my ideas and the weight of my arguments. I want to poke hard at the shortcomings. I want to pull at the threads of weakness. And I want to unravel lies. And I want to have good argument and dialogue and discussion, because I feel like when we do that, we end up finding some place at which it's hard to poke each other in the eye, and it's easier to craft policy to make our nation better. Our job is not to foment dissent and push us into revolution. News reporters would be well served thinking about this. It is not salacious. It's not exciting. But to have this discussion, it gets us closer together. And when we get closer together, we stop hurting each other. We stop demonizing the other side. And we stop having radical ideas because we think the other side's evil. I've heard both sides in the last month say that the other side is evil and that the life of America is in jeopardy because of the other side. They both have the same critique of each other. And it seems that politicians in the press like to paint us a million miles apart from one another. And the vast majority of us, and I'm going to say 3/4 of America, 75% of us are standing on one stripe right in the middle. The remaining 25% is 12.5% on one side, 12.5% on the other side, and they're way over at the ends, and they're nutters. They're nutters. I tolerate the religious nutters because I like their public policy more than the policy of the left. I like the sentiments of the left. I like the good-heartedness of the left. I just don't like the application of their idea into public policy. Stuff doesn't make sense. It never works. So I pop on here to have these discussions, everybody, because we are a very conservative lot. We come off as a very conservative lot. I get labeled as a ultra MAGA right-wing lunatic. I'm actually a really centrist guy that's so turned off by Marxism because I've seen what it's done around the world that I have strong opinions about it, and it's pushed me. You know, madness, if you get rid of my vote, I will come with a pitchfork. And that's the thing everyone needs to remember in this country. The votes have to be honest, or we'll come with pitchforks. Except they won't be pitchforks, you know what I mean? You know, democracy is this wonderful thing, and it's a pressure relief valve. There is a tension between the ruling and the ruled, always. And what do we get to do? Throw the bums out every midterm and every main cycle. If they get rid of that, there will be a pressure that will build up, and this will be problematic. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm a revolutionary dude, and I don't want the revolution. I don't want it at all. Last time we had a civil war, the entire world gasped at how many of us we killed. So, let's have these discussions. Let's find our common ground. And let's remember, you know, it's not the purview of the Supreme Court to legislate. If the land wants abortion so much, everywhere, so unanimously, pass a law. It's okay. You pass the law, go along with it. But the Supreme Court doesn't get to legislate. Their job is enumerated as determining that which is constitutional and not constitutional, not interpreting the mood of the masses at any given era and legislating from the bench. That's not their job. Now, in my opinion, if everybody wants abortion, or our culture seems pretty comfortable with a certain level of abortion, pass a goddamn law about it. That's their job. The reason why the Supreme Court sat on their hands for so long is there is a long respected tradition to have it be a stabilizing force and not a quickly tacking force. And that way it doesn't become a popularity branch of the government, but it becomes one of a steadying force as a keel of a ship over time. So the Supreme Court has a tendency to, within one generation, not overrule itself. Therefore, it doesn't want to be overruled and have its daily work nullified also. So as a respect to itself, it has respected, right or wrong, giving every law or every ruling a chance to reach into the future. And they're very reticent to undo themselves. And that's what gives them value and power. I've read a lot about Roe v. Wade. There are 10 fascinating points on why it's a nearly indefensible decision out of the purview of the Supreme Court. And I'm a fucking knife-making nobody. If you read up the shortcomings of Roe v. Wade, if you just Google that, read a little bit, I'm sure you'll find them. I read them when I was in college and discussed them, and it seemed really clear it was a vast overreach and a real head-scratcher. And interestingly, the Supreme Court time and time again, including liberal justices, have looked back and said, although I do not disagree with the outcome, I'm pro-choice and all of that. I'm paraphrasing. Many justices have said, although I am pro-choice, I am against Roe v. Wade. It was an overreach of the Supreme Court, and it turns us into a political body. You know, we've got these amazing three branches of government, right? The legislative, the judicial, and the executive. And they all overlap with varying degrees of reach into the future in different times. And it was the balance. It was to even things. It was to smooth things out. So you didn't get a crazy king, a mad king one era, and you get a great king the next, and you get a wonderful, and you get an awful. And it was a leveling effect. The Supreme Court is never supposed to rule on popularity, because popularity is like the wind. And they wanted this constitutional thinking to be like a keel of a ship, making the ship true through the water. And a keel makes it so you can't necessarily turn up your own ass, but it means you have good stability and direction over time. And as the winds change, your boat leans a little left, a little right, but you keep on course. There's a lot to it, you guys. I've read about it, thought about it a lot. It's been a big part of the thinking part of my life, is how our country functions and how we interact with each other as human beings. Making sense of social media and how it fits into all of this is a whole nother maddening animal. But we stop having these discussions after a high school civics class or college. Medford energy drink with a can that looks like a knife handle. That'd be funny. We stop having these discussions, except they're the pressing things of our day. So it's an amazing time, and I'm going to let you guys see my shirt. I know it'll make a bunch of you really angry. Republican, Democrat, I'm voting for Trump. My president and his actions. Day before yesterday, the Supreme Court said that New York and California's failure to allow people to carry concealed in Los Angeles and New York was unconstitutional. That was my president's Supreme Court. Anything the Supreme Court can do, liberal or conservative, that constrains the federal government's overreach out into my life, I approve of. And that's one of them. And the other one is overturning this absurd Roe v. Wade. I'm going to say one last thing about it. Since the decision of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court and the justices instead of it being this very smooth administrative assignment by president, approval by Senate, and smooth running, non-political backbone of our democracy, of our republic, instead of it being that, it is spiraled into a political institution of agony, of fighting, of bitter partisanship. Why? Because a ruling was made that was not constitutional, was outside the realm of the Constitution. It was outside, and it was let stand for 50 years, and 63 million young people were aborted. This great republic is 50 semi-autonomous states running experiments in the social challenges of the day. And what we all get to do is we all get to look across the landscape of our republic and see whose ideas are working out best, which ones suit us, and we get to adjust. All those powers not expressly stated herein shall be relegated to the states. There's nothing in the Constitution about abortion. And they made the ruling on some obscure, wide interpretation of the right to privacy. Now today, in a bizarre twist, Dick's Sporting Goods and Chase Bank, JP Morgan, they decided they're going to put up money for any employee that needs an abortion to fly to a place where they can get an abortion. Because their PR people and HR people don't actually understand no laws about abortion actually changed today anywhere in the United States of America, not one. So now, at Dick's Sporting Goods and at JP Morgan, and I'm not saying don't do business with these people. I'm not cancel culturing at all. I just want to tell you the insanity of corporate America. You can now, they will pay up to $4,000 to send you to get your abortion. Now, I just was thinking about like how this goes down. 23, 25, 28, 34-year-old woman walks in to her HR director at the bank and says, I'm here to collect my pro-choice proceeds. I got to go to California for a few days. And then does the employer, do they have to ask for a receipt? Like that they got an abortion? I mean, I'm a little confused about, I was just thinking as an employer who has, a team of people that work for me, I got 50 people in my stable. Do you have to get proof, or do you just cut them a check for $4,000 and send them off to California or New York? I mean, I don't quite have my brain wrapped around this yet. And then, look, do you get a receipt if you go to get an abortion? Do they give you a receipt like, yeah, like Susie got an abortion today, signed Dr. Mendela? Is that how it goes? I'm just, like, I love that they're looking out for their employees. That's fine. I just think it's bizarre that they would make a public statement about something they would do that it probably violates like 3 HIPAA laws. You can't ask people if they've had medical procedures on the job. You can't force people to, I don't know how this works. Like, if you work for JP Morgan Chase, look, I identify as a woman. I want to go out to California for a week. Maybe I just tell them, look, I identify as a woman, and I'm going to go out and have an abortion. What are they going to say to me? You're not a woman. I'll be like, oh, don't oppress me. I identify as a woman, and I'm going out for an abortion whether you like it or not. Does that mean they're going to overrule their trans policies? I'm just, there's the comedian me that has done stand-up comedy and gotten on stage and ripped it. That guy is in the back going, oh, wait a second, hold on. Like, if you tell them I identify as a woman, can they tell you no? Do you think JP Morgan or Disney or Dick's, if I can say, look, I'm actually a woman, what are they going to say? Like, pull down your pants and let me see? You know, it's funny. Somebody just said something about an abortion punch card. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe all the doctors have a little stampy thing that's in the shape of a baby, and you get a little card from JP Morgan and Dick's. And when you get out there, they put a little hole in your card, a little baby shaped one. And then they give you your money. Or maybe it's like a card, a credit card they give you. Got a little credit card. You know how credit cards usually have like a cool little picture about what they're about? What would the picture be on the card if you're like, JP Morgan's like, we're in the bank business. Just give them a $4,000 debit card to use out in California when they go out for their medical procedure. And what do they put for a logo on there? They're like, a little baby there, or I don't know, speculum. I mean, what do you put on it? It's bananas. So now I'm going to do what I do is I'm going to go back to knife making. Thank you guys for stopping in and saying hello. If any of you are in town in Arizona, tomorrow I'll be speaking at a Republican gathering over in Scottsdale for Congressman Paul Gosar. We're doing a rally for him. If you get a chance, Paul Gosar is one of the guys who is really pushing for election integrity. Oh my God, like, and I voted today, but it's like I got an abortion today, and you kind of wear that around work at JP Morgan. We gotta laugh. Is it too soon? We gotta laugh a little bit at this, you guys. It's bananas. So the federal government is happy the cowards in Congress can't pass an abortion law. So they support the Supreme Court doing it, which politicizes the Supreme Court and upends a hallowed institution of our republic. In doing that, they are part of the demise of 63 million of our fellow citizens. And to make up for our declining birth rates and a number that is unsustainable, they now tear down the borders to allow illegals into the country by the millions to make up for all the babies that aren't here. I remind everyone, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a proponent of eugenics. You can read up on what that was without me saying it. Because if I just say it, someone will take a little snippet of that and say, oh, I'm a racist. I don't know. We have to say out loud the madness in front of us. We have to say out loud. And you know what? Sometimes we get it right. Greg Medford from Medford Knife, MKT USA, and ASK Knives. Thanks for stopping in, spending a few minutes with me on this Friday. Godspeed. Enjoy your afternoon. Have fun with the family this weekend. I'm out.